Welcome back to the World According to Briggs. Today we're talking about what happens when Washington, D.C. stops paying its bills. A government shutdown is just that, but for entire states and the country. Some places run on federal paychecks, park fees, lab grants, and three-letter agencies that you only see on employee badges like NIH, DOE, TSA, OMG. So when the money hose kinks, their economies get the spins. Today we're counting down the 10 states that feel a shutdown the worst, where furloughs turn into freezer burn, national parks operate on good luck and porta potties, and contractors stare at paused procurements like they're lottery tickets that won't scratch. If your town's official motto is "In Grant We Trust," you may want to keep watching. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Arizona. Arizona may not have DC's marble columns, but a lot of Arizona paychecks point back to them. Federal labs, defense contracting, the massive footprint of public lands, and a steady stream of interior-related work put tens of thousands of Arizonans on or next to federal payrolls. In 2024, the OPM, Office of Personnel Management, counted roughly 34,000 federal civilian workers in Arizona. Think airports, border operations, VA facilities, national parks, and more. When those people get furloughed, you feel it from Phoenix, Sky Harbor to Yuma. Now, shutdowns ripple through every state, and Arizona's no different, especially with Arizona's unique portfolio of federal touching activities. Public lands access, permitting, and park operations aren't just postcards, they're tourism dollars and small business margins. I mean, think about it. If people aren't going to the national parks and visiting different places in the state, that just means the local economy is going to tank. Even when essential functions keep running, thin staffing means delays, backlogs, and the kind of customer service that makes you question whether the person is actually getting paid on the other end of the line. Like they're got too many speeding tickets, now they got to do customer service for the park system. Financially, Arizona is a net receiver of federal money in many channels. In 2024, the gap between what Arizonans sent to the federal government and what they received from the federal government was about $40 billion difference in their favor. Good news most years, but magnifies the pain when the faucet closes or sputters. Medicaid, transportation, and income support grants create dependency points in a state's budget, and local providers don't like uncertainty. That's just a fact. Now, on this video, first of all, this could all be, nothing in a week, 2 weeks, 3 days after this video uploads. So come back when the shutdown is over and look how many people left. This didn't age well. They always do. That's like everyone's favorite comment. This didn't age well. We're taking all things into consideration on this one, and it was kind of put together by Congress. I'm just reading their numbers. But one thing I do want to show you on this, which it's not listed by, but it's the amount of federal civilian employees each state have, because they're getting furloughed. Now, they're not the military. There's plenty of those, but these are the people that work in offices at IRS, wherever. Arizona's federal civilian employees is about 0.45% of their working population. It's about 34,460 residents. Number 9, Colorado. Colorado's federal footprint is sneaky big. Federal labs like NIST, NOAA, NCAR connections, space and defense work along the Front Range, a huge Forest Service interior presence, and significant VA and USPS agencies. OPM, Office of Personnel Management, shows just over 41,000 federal civilians on duty in Colorado as of late 2024. And that's before you even touch on the contractors. When a shutdown hits, lab work pauses, permitting drags, and a lot of high-skilled workers get thrown into hurry up and wait. The state's mountain economy is also tied to federal land management. Trail work, forest projects, and recreation-related access hinge on interior and agricultural staffing. Even when the national parks stay open, reduced services can slam getaway towns that live on the shoulders of seasoned visitors. Those are real dollars for outfitters, lodging, and restaurants. They feel it. It's not just the government shutting down. A lot of, mom and pop shops and even big businesses get nailed pretty hard when this happens. But the result of all this is public land communities lose activity, while metro areas, their knowledge workers, computer people, and defense ecosystem sit idle and work unpaid. That's not a recipe for calm or steady growth. But their federal civilian employees in Colorado is 0.69% of the working population. That's about 41,167 Coloradans about to get furloughed. Number 8, Alabama. Roll Tide. If you've ever wondered how hard a shutdown can smack a metro area, just go look at Huntsville. They got Redstone Arsenal, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, and a thick coat of defense and space contractors means Alabama tech capital wears federal spending like a uniform. OPM tallied roughly 41,000 federal civilians statewide in 2024. Plenty of them sit in North Alabama. Alabama is also a net federal receiver. USA Facts shows the state taking in substantially more than it pays, which is great until contractors start looking to get paychecks. And right before the holidays, too, got a bunch of contractors might be laying people off. Sucks. At a state budget level, Medicaid and other federal grants are vital here. Pew notes that federal grants now routinely make up roughly a third of a state's revenue nationwide. Alabama is among the states where the federal share runs really high. That's your hospital reimbursements, human services, and a lot of pass-throughs to local entities. When Washington coughs, county providers reach for antacids. In short, Alabama's exposure to this is pretty bad. Shutoffs upstream show up fast downstream, as they say. Federal civilian employees in Alabama, about 0.8% of their working populations, about 41,319 people. And I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure a third of them live in northern Alabama. Number 7, West Virginia. Federal money is like oxygen to West Virginia, especially in healthcare and income support. And the state constantly receives more per person than it contributes. In 2023, the per resident gap was among the largest in the country, reflecting heavy inflow via benefits and grants. Now, that's not a moral judgment, it's arithmetic. On the job side, OPM counted about 17,000 federal civilian employees in West Virginia. It's not a huge number, but it's concentrated in places where those paychecks anchor local spending. Now, we all know, and it's been well publicized, and I've talked about it extensively in this channel, West Virginia has been in bad shape for a very long time. And, I mean, they're getting a little bit better, but not much. Like I've said before, you take a bucket out of the ocean and you don't see a difference in the tide. That's what's going on in West Virginia. They're making small improvements, and it looks better than it did, let's say, 5 years ago. But they got a long way to go. And there are a lot of people that are counting on those paychecks. They're counting on those hospital visits, all because their coal industry tanked and they didn't have a backup plan. And there's a lot more that goes into it, and I just heavy brushed it, so wide brush on that one. But, I mean, then they're hit with the opioid crisis. There's a lot of wonderful people, and that is a beautiful state, and that's what baffles me so much about West Virginia. They're wonderful people. Some of the best people I know are in West Virginia right now. Go listen to WTSQ, one of the greatest radio stations in the country. It's in Charleston, West Virginia, and I have friends there, and they're wonderful. They love the state, and I do too. When are these guys going to get a real good break? When are they going to find a gold mine in that state? I mean, they got people looking for coal. Maybe you can find some gold or something. Really help out the state. But yeah, I don't know. I just go on a tangent about West Virginia sometimes. It breaks my heart. But federal civilian employees in West Virginia, because it's a federal-leaning place, is 0.98% of their population. About 17,301 West Virginians are on federal payrolls, are going to be furloughed pretty soon. Anyway, staying informed is important, but let's be real, the news is a mess. It's hard to know which media outlet you can trust these days. If you don't know, Ground News is an app that pulls together news from all over the world and actually gives you context, like the political leaning, the reliability, and ownership of the news source. So you could think critically instead of just taking headlines at face value. I've been using Ground News for years, way before they started sponsoring my channel. I only do sponsorships with brands I actually like and use, and this one's a no-brainer. Ground News also shows me how different sides are covering or ignoring stories. For example, there's the blind spot feature that actually highlights what's being covered or underreported based on political leanings. Like this one, Senator John Fetterman stated that he will not switch parties and aims to be an independent voice within the Democratic Party. Well, he's one of these people that is kind of independent already. He usually follows what he thinks best instead of what the party is pushing. I think that's the way they all should be. But if you go down and look at the bias distribution, 73% of outlets reporting on this lean right. On the left-leaning side, crickets. If you go to ground.news/Briggs, you can get the Advantage plan for only $5 a month. On top of that, you'll be supporting an independent platform that actually wants to make news coverage more transparent. There's a link in the description area below, or you can use this fancy QR code. Back to the video. Number 6, Mississippi. Mississippi nears the top of the federal aid league tables year after year. That includes Medicaid reimbursement, nutrition assistance, infrastructure dollars, and the practical stuff that keeps providers and counties functioning. Take that flow away temporarily, and you get immediate operating stress. Again, Mississippi is one of the poorest states we have, and a lot of those people rely on those paychecks. And if they don't get them, a lot of people are going to go hungry. I mean, they got epidemic poverty as it is, and it's just going to make it worse. OPM lists roughly 19,700 federal civilian employees in Mississippi. Now, that's distributed across bases, Corps of Engineer projects, VA facilities, and agency field offices. It's not DC scale, but in smaller local economies, each paycheck supports vendors, leases, and plenty of secondary jobs. Furlough those workers, and the ripple is obvious. USA Facts also shows that Mississippi is among the states that receive more per person than they contribute. Again, a structural reality that raises exposure when obligations slow, approvals pause, and contracting staff go dark for weeks. Providers can front costs only for so long before service reductions creep in. When Washington argues with itself, Mississippi communities feel it at the clinic, the courthouse, and the payroll office. That's a bad trifecta to have. Their federal civilian employees, about 0.67% of their working population. It's about 19,690 residents. Going to be furloughed, laid off, whatever you want to call it. Number 5, Hawaii. Hawaii's federal footprint is heavy, especially via Department of Defense and Interior. OPM counted about 24,000, almost 25,000 federal civilian employees statewide in 2024. On the money flow side, Hawaii receives well above the average per person federal distribution thanks to its military presence, federal land, and water management. Of course, transportation also. Those aren't optional luxuries. They're the core of the island's infrastructure. Now, tourism complicates things. Even when the national parks and monuments stay nominally open, limited service or staffing can ding itineraries, tours, and small businesses. Meanwhile, airport operations soldier on with essential personnel only. But delay and backlogs aren't great for an economy that lives and dies by smooth travel. Hawaii's distance means there's no easy backfill. If a federal function slows, you can't just drive to the next state. That makes shutdowns feel longer and costlier. Their federal civilian employees, about 1.72% of their population, or about 24,804 Hawaiian residents. That's rough. Number 4, Alaska. Alaska is the per capita champ of federal receipts, about $24,141 per person in 2024. A big chunk is tied to tribal health compacts, defense, transportation, and a sprawling footprint of federal land and waters. In other words, the federal government isn't just a payer in Alaska, it's the landlord, the contractor, and the neighbor with the snowplow. Now keep in mind, Alaska doesn't have a lot of residents. OPM shows over 11,000 federal civilians work in Alaska in 2024. Small in absolute terms, but we're talking about a state that has a little over 700,000 residents, and they're losing more all the time. And that's across huge distances. When those paychecks stop, there aren't many alternative employers in Nome or Kodiak waiting to absorb the shock. Basically, there's a lot of things going on in Alaska that rely on the federal government. All the fisheries, the land management, anything. There's so many things that depend on the federal government, and a lot of businesses, local businesses, are going to tank because of this. And you just hope they planned for this and, could withstand more than a couple weeks, because that's what most people set up for. A couple weeks. After that, people start getting laid off. So let's hope it doesn't last that long. But Alaska's federal civilian employees, about 1.58% of their working population. It's about 11,658 residents. It's rough. Number 3, New Mexico. 2 words, national labs. Los Alamos and Sandia pull in high-skilled workers and enormous federal contracting. Per person, New Mexico also ranks among the top recipients of federal dollars, about $19,720 per resident in 2024, and it runs one of the largest per capita gaps in the country. Translation, every hiccup in federal pipeline shows up quickly in local finances and consumer spending. Yeah, now this is a pretty poor state as it is. I don't think a lot of people really understand how poor New Mexico is. They always think poverty, it's going to be Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, things like that. New Mexico is one of the poorest states we have. Beautiful state if you like desert stuff. I'm not a desert guy, but man, the sunsets there are unbelievable. It's just too bad the state's in such bad shape with poverty and everything else. It's just another gut punch to them. This is another state that has a lot of open land that the federal government takes care of. And, if you're used to the local park ranger coming around, he's not coming around this week if you're living out on the land. Their federal civilian employees is about 1.07% of their total population, working population. That's about 22,695 residents. Number 2, Maryland. If Virginia is the federal sun, Maryland is one of its closest planets. OPM counted about 144,500 federal civilian employees assigned to Maryland duty stations at the end of 2024. Yes, you heard me right. NASA, Goddard, NIH, FDA, NSA, NIST, Social Security and Woodlawn, and countless agencies in suburban DC. When a shutdown hits, Maryland's payroll shock is immediate and massive. Maryland also hosts whole communities where federal employment is the neighborhood norm. Even if essential staff keep working, they may do without timely pay. That bleeds into retail, mortgage, and local services in a hurry. And yes, a sizable slice of the contractor world is parked on the Maryland side of the Beltway. On revenue flows, Maryland is a major net receiver in raw dollars thanks to its sheer volume of federal compensation and contracting that lands there. Shutting it off, even briefly, means the state's tax receipts and local sales take a major hit. If you designed a state to feel a shutdown, you draw a map that looks suspiciously like Maryland. It's the definition of exposure. Federal civilian employees here, like I said, makes up about 2.13% of their working population. That's about 144,497 Maryland people that could be furloughed in the next few days. Hopefully not. All right, before we get to number 1, if you enjoyed this video and you like what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Virginia. Now this one's no surprise. Virginia wears the crown. OPM, Office of Personal Management, shows about 147,000 federal civilian workers are in Virginia. That's more than Maryland. That's also before you count the Beltway's defense contractor galaxy in Northern Virginia and the military-heavy Hampton Road region. It's like a 1-2 punch. Salaries and service contracts both hinge on federal funding behaving like a grown-up. In 2024, Virginia had the largest net positive flow of federal dollars among the states, roughly 79 million more received than paid. That's great for growth until the government stops signing checks. But like so many other places, it's the same thing. Delayed contract starts, nervous small vendors, and a regional consumer spending dip that can be spotted from outer space. The state also straddles every shutdown pain point. Federal workers in every flavor, critical transportation and security hubs, national parks, defense logistics, and agencies that touch the rest of the country's paperwork. When those systems slow, Virginia isn't just affected, it's the staging area for a slowdown. That's why every shutdown headline lands here like a weather alert. When Washington seizes up, Virginia is first in line for the collateral damage. Their federal civilian employees is 1.67% of their working population, about 147,358 people. That's rough. Now, I honestly hope by the time I upload this video, they've worked it all out. Sometimes these things only last a couple days. but, you know, the information's still relevant for the future because you know we're going to have another one. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Be nice to each other.